Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to the Sports Crib. As usual, every Wednesday evening, we can get all our little commercial stuff out of the way here. Here's our little banner that scrolls across the bottom. If you're on YouTube, you can subscribe and donate. Our Cash App is $ JE King 3, and all proceeds go to the Sports Crib for trophies and our different activities and whatnot, fantasy football. So, with that being said, we have a very interesting guest tonight, Mr. Mitch Lyons. Uh, and Funny story, on the way to the show, I talked to uh, Mr. Lyons, and we are actually the same age. So it's very interesting to hear how someone from uh, the generation of rub dirt on it and get your ass back in the game has now become a proponent of abusive coaching, non-abusive coaching techniques, and is very pro science. So, with that being said, Mitch, can you hear us?
I can, glad to say.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I was very interested here because one of our panel that has been here for many, many years is Mr. Don Hayes, as you can see in the bottom there. And Don coaches, and of course, he's a little removed from our era, but he played football at the University of Texas. So,
Nice to meet you, Don.
Likewise, Mitch.
I'm gonna get into it. If some more other guys come, then you and Don can interact there for a minute or whatever. But first of all, I have a few questions there, Mitch, and I was wondering how you have thought about this. You know. We talk about this age where we have participation trophies, and every little kid, you got to be make sure that you don't hurt little Johnny's feelings, and make him cry, and the different techniques that we have in tackling now. I mean, the way we even teach our kids to play football. The way we were taught to play football is get them on the ground by any means necessary. So, uh, Mitch, are we raising a generation of soft kids?
Well, you raised an interesting question there. By the way, Olympians get participation trophies, don't you? They just show up and they get a trophy.
No, I never knew that, but
yeah, they do.
I know when I was, you either got a letter or you didn't.
You what?
I said, I remember you either got a letter or you didn't.
Oh,
everybody on the team didn't get a letter.
That's correct. And we're talking about 5, 7-year-olds, right? Because by 10 years old, they've already developed their brain is developed to a point where they actually have a sense of competence as to how competent they are compared to others, and they get plenty of losing by playing even video games. But even with their friends, they didn't get the part in the play. There's all kinds of stuff that toughens them up in life, but we're talking about 5 or 7-year-olds. It just seems like, what do we care? But secondly, always remember Teddy Roosevelt and the dogs.
That's Ranger. He's a member of our panel.
Yeah, I apologize for that. Let me hang on just one sec.
I don't want to. That's a tall order to keep a dog from barking.
So,
So I was saying that Teddy Roosevelt talked about the man in the arena, and which we all applaud, because what he was saying basically was that, criticize all you want, but you actually get out there and do it and fail in front of other people. And isn't that what kids are doing too? So I don't spend a lot of time worrying about, hurting feelings. There's a lot of hurt feelings everywhere in the world. And there has been since time began. And because we're emotional beings. There's a neuroscientist who said this thing that really stuck with me is that we perceive ourselves as thinking creatures who feel, but in biology, we're actually feeling creatures who think, because the first thing that happens is the amygdala, and the first thing that fires up, which is the emotion center. So, so we are feelings. You have feelings. Didn't you ever get hurt feelings yourself when you were growing up?
Most definitely. But like I said, you hurt my feelings, but I'll, rub dirt on it and get your ass back in the game.
Well, I think.
I mean,
but what does that have to do with the participation trophy? That's what there's.
What I'm saying is, okay, starting from Pop Warner, I played football from Pop Warner until I got in the Army.
Yeah.
And nowadays, I look at my grandkids, and I see the kids, playing Pop Warner football. Everybody gets a trophy. Well, it wasn't like that when we played.
Why didn't you get one?
Huh?
Did you ask why didn't you get one?
I got one because I started. I didn't ask why Johnny didn't get one, because Johnny said on the bench.
How old were you when you got your participation trophy?
I never got a participation trophy.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you got your trophy, how old were you when you were playing Pop Warner?
I want to say 7, but I believe I started when I was 6.5.
Okay, but I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you raise a bunch of. I don't think a trophy is going to cause a kid to be tough or not, one way or another. That's my opinion. I don't see it as the kind of issue that rises to the level of a discussion that there's something wrong with it, because they have plenty of chances, God knows, in life to get hit across the face, So it's not like they're never going to. That's why it's being done. I'm not even mentioning the kids with the just showing up for some people is amazing compared to not showing up. So how about all of those people who don't participate in anything? It takes real guts. My daughter was on the swim team in high school and stood in front of like 500 people in a bathing suit. For a high school girl, that's tough. That's not an easy thing to do. And I had to hide my eyes every time she did that inward dive, because she's so close to the board. Jeez. But the point is that I'm making is that feelings are part of life. Emotion is the main part of our lives. We spend very little time discussing it. And I think that kind of trophy gives kids some confidence that they're actually doing something and aren't afraid to fail in front of other people. I think that's worthy of something at 5 years old. They don't at 7 years old. They don't do that anymore at 10. It's done with. I've never seen it. So we're talking about single digit. They're not adults. They're children with developing brains.
So where do you cross the line between aggressive coaching and abusive coaching?
What do you mean by aggressive? That's my first question.
Okay, aggressive coaching would be for that coach that For instance, if you did something wrong, grabbed you by your face guard and pulled you over and yelled at you for in front of the whole team.
All right, so that kind of coaching is abusive. So is
Okay.
belittling, name calling, demeaning, body shaming.
Okay.
That's
What
abusive because it causes more harm and doesn't even actually get, except anecdotally, doesn't even get what you want. Because there's if you want to teach the kid, there's not going to be a coach around in work where the boss is going to kick them in the ass. They'll just fire them, right? They just fire them because if you don't have um, uh, it teaches them nothing. And there's an axiom in science that people perform better and learn faster in a safe and supportive environment. It's been repeatedly studied over and over and over again. Sports psychology studies it. Social emotional learning studies it. The positive psychology studies it. All of these sciences, they do repeated experiments. They find that people perform better in a safe, nurturing environment. So when you yell at a coach, it's really like anti-science. I mean, a coach yells at somebody, it's anti-science. And so I'm for teaching kids all the real lessons that can be learned. Like if you learned how specifically, explicitly, learned how to create a positive environment, that's a skill that will last you your whole life because you can use it at home. You definitely need to use it at work. You can use it in school. So that's a career ready skill today, not in 1894 when the system of all powerful coaches and voiceless students started, when eugenics was an accepted science. There was corporal punishment.
Yes.
There was no
Sir.
suggestion. There was no suggestion boxes at work because you were a peon, and there was no point in even discussing anything because you're too stupid. Especially the classism involved in if you work with your hands, you don't deserve a curriculum, but there is none at that time. There was no content to teach. But since that time, now in the 21st century, things are quite different. And we have actually studied what makes people achieve.
Uh,
And we should be teaching that.
we are joined by Mr. Scott. Mr. Scott is an educator in his own sense. He does a lot within the community, and as I
How do you
said,
do, Mr. Scott?
I'm,
Greetings. My pleasure.
I'm going to ask my last question, then I'm going to let you and the panel interact. Uh, we know that in a lot of situations, it's the coach that becomes more than just a coach. He's also the mentor. Sometimes he's that sense of family. Uh,
Absolutely. I've
how do
coached
you
for 30 years.
how do you interact with a kid whose father or their parent is abusive in order to make them achieve, or in order for what he thinks to achieve a certain level of success?
Well,
How do you handle situations like that with children?
well, well, first of all, then the coach sort of becomes the victim, right? Because the parent is sort of like all over the coach. You didn't know playing time or whatever the reason that they give. Bad coach. He's not a good game coach. All the critics out there. I once brought one parent in a team I was coaching was just all over his kid, not the coach or anybody else, just his own child. It's terrible to watch. So one day I brought duct tape to the game, and I showed it to him. I said, "I swear to God, if you say anything to your daughter today, I'm going to duct tape your mouth." He got the point. He went to the other side of the field, but I could still hear him down there. He was still doing it. So you can't control all the parents. But in high schools, I feel like you could, if there was a focus in schools on in the athletic director's department, have one focus. Right now in athletics, you in high schools, you don't see all teams working on a certain skill. The athletic department has no game plan for what they're going to teach. There's no curriculum there, and that's what it needs. It needs a third element besides the coach and the player. They need something to guide a lot of these coaches who don't have pedagogy, don't know how to deal with children, or have self-awareness to be a perspective taker, um, and know that in fact uh, uh, winning is not their job in public school education. I'm not talking about college or pros or even youth leagues, because I think that the linchpin to change to where we can get rid of toxic cultures and abusive coaching lies in high schools, because that's where the public spends its money and they have a say in it. And if they did that, the youth leagues would follow whatever the high school did, because they want their kids to play in high school. I know when I coached at that level, I did. Just as a background, I played basketball until I was 65, 3 times a week. Loved competition, loved banging bodies on the post. I'm 6'3", and I coached every level from kids travel teams. I started a girls basketball league in '86, and coached in 8 years in AAU, 6 years in high school, 8 years in high school, 6 with girls, 2 with boys, and into D3 men's basketball. So I've seen what happens out there, and I thought of, well, what could we do to repair it? And to me, the problem is in the institutionalized power imbalance between, and it invites abuse. And we've seen this in many fields, not just sports, obviously, where you have
Uh,
this power imbalance. So you have to give knowledge to the kids.
I'm going to turn you over to the panel here. You told me earlier when we talked that you had a question for them, so I'm going to let you ask your question to Don.
Thanks a lot, James.
Yeah.
So here's my question. It's not to you in particular, obviously, because we don't know each other, but it's a general question. And that is, if all of public schools is trying to teach up-to-date knowledge, why is sports exempt? Sports psychology is there. It's being used in the pros and college everywhere, but we have no such thing in high school. I'm trying to find the reason why that is. Why don't we teach sports psychology while we're teaching sports? That's my question. Is it for a general conversation why we think that is?
Well, as far as textbook psychology, we don't, but there's a lot of psychology going on the football field and definitely during the halftime speeches and game prep. But,
Yeah.
As far as aggressive versus abusive coaching, I would never consider myself an abusive coach. I never, hit a kid or anything like that. But my dad was a coach. He's in the Hall of Honor here in Texas. He coached, started in 1958 all the way through the 80s. And we had a discussion once about, Dad, why are we running a boot camp, in off season? I just asked these questions as a teenager. He said that's what he knew, because his coach back in Prosper, Texas in 1953 had been a Marine at Tarawa. And he had been to Okinawa, and a lot of the coaches maybe throughout the United States, but most of the coaches that we had here in Texas were World War II veterans. And so if you got a little hot or whatever, well, you didn't get enough water. Well, okay, that happens. I mean, that was their mindset. And so it kind of like became built upon that. In 1954, Bear Bryant was coaching at Texas A&M. He took 70 kids to Junction, Texas. I don't know if you've ever been to Texas. Junction, Texas, out in West Texas, it's hot. The 50s was one of the worst droughts in the state of Texas, and he did a month of boot camp in not even the football field. I've been there. It's like dirt, rocks, stick scorpions, rocks, and they did football drills out there, like 7 hours a day. And when he came back, he had 18 kids on this team. They all quit. Now, in the year 2024, we say, well, that was that's kind of aggressive and abusive, but those players loved him. They would go out, and so there's I think.
Do we really know that? Do we really know that they loved them? I mean, deep down, or is that the public?
Well, the people who the people who have written about it, they never say anything bad about it. Maybe not love, but they respected him.
Well, I think there's a lot of respect. First of all, his football knowledge was tremendous, but we're in 2023, so it's 24. It's sort of different than it was. My father may have known your grandfather because he was in Okinawa. And I grew up under a World War II father who never said anything and had no understanding of feelings whatsoever. It was all. I don't even remember him hugging anyone ever. So
my dad was military also, but he wasn't World War II. He was in between Korea and Vietnam, but he had that military
that's our age difference. Yeah.
But going back to the previous, we're talking about everyone gets a trophy. I got now. It's not just athletics; it's society in general. I got an invitation today from a coworker to attend her daughter's kindergarten graduation. Now, when I graduated, we had a ceremony for high school. They had a ceremony for college. Kids nowadays, they have a kindergarten graduation. They have an elementary graduation. They have a middle school graduation and have a high school graduation. And I'm not talking about just an award ceremony. I'm talking about cap and gown, commencement speaker, the whole shebang. So that kind of ties into, recognizing every little achievement. Little Johnny just wiped his ass. Well, let's celebrate that.
Is this dark enough for you, James?
SPORTSKRIB After Dark, James.
Yeah, that's it.
Like I said, I remember these. And I warned Mr. Lyons that we do go into sport. The crib, cribbing after dark. We're not a bunch of guys that kind of hide our opinion. As you can see, my guys on the panel here are pretty mature. So
yeah, but I'm glad they don't hide their opinion. It's good to express it. But go ahead, Anthony.
Well, James, I don't know how I can chime in. I guess when we're talking about coaching, or my brother and I, we just played baseball every day. I mean, that's we would go see grandmother take our ball, the glove, the bat, and then when we got to her house, there was a whole group of other guys that couldn't wait till we got there. So they saw us drive up. Let's get the game going. Play all night long. And so when I went to junior high school, there was a guy, a coach, phy ed teacher, and this guy looked like he could be the third man in the ring for the Crusher and the Bruiser. I mean, he had a crew cut, and I mean, his shoulders.
See, Mitch just said he was 6'3". See, he was one of them guys. See,
his shoulders were so wide, and I'm like in 7th grade. Okay. So I go to his gym class the first day. And so I get a hit. I'm on first base, and the next guy hits the ball to right field, and I run halfway to see what's going to happen. And so he stops the game. He said, "Did you see what that man did?" He said, "This is how you play baseball. You don't just run because the ball is hit." He kind of redid the whole thing. Okay. And so when I went to high school, it ended up he was one of the football coaches. And I had transferred to a high school where I really wasn't in that neighborhood. I didn't play with the feeder teams. And I mean, this was a top team. Washburn High School has one of the records in the state of Minnesota as winning like 7 years in a row, no losses. Okay, George Wiedemeyer, the coach. And so I try out, and I don't know these guys, and it looks like they weren't going to give me a uniform. And then Mr. Sandvig, who was my gym teacher in 7th grade, said, no. Get that man a uniform. You got to get that man a uniform. He needs to be on this team. And they made me one of the captains. But when I looked up Mr. Gene Sandvig, there was an article I happened to see, and he was like 92 years old, and he had a heart transplant. And the article's like, we never give anybody this old a heart transplant. But when I saw his bio, he was an Olympic speed skater, one of the top speed skaters in the world. He was an All-American football player at this little Lutheran college called Gustavus in Minnesota here. All-world football player. I was like, good. I had no idea about him like that. I had no idea Mr. Sandvig was Olympic. I mean, he's one of the top 10 speed skaters in that Olympics that year. And his daughter and his granddaughter are speed skaters. You know, so I mean, you just never know how you meet these people, teachers, coaches, growing up. And I tell you, he's still high on my list of people that I've known. And also, there was a fight. Two of the baddest dudes in the junior high were fighting. Oh, and he picked them up like puppets. Picked them up like puppets and took them to the principal's office.
Yeah. That the reason why I brought you on, Mr. Lyons, is because I know how much, all three of us that have participated in sports, I know how much we have looked up to some coaches. Some coaches, they've been that SOB and but a lot of it had to do with the amount. As Don said, you might not have loved him, but you respected him, and it was almost like in some cases, as I mentioned, your dad, that fear and respect kind of bonded together. It was that thin line, between fear and respect.
Well, this is where I think that science takes a firm hand and says that fear is not a way to motivate people long term. They may respect you because they're fearful of you. That's one way to get respect. Like, I'm going to back off this person. But the point is that when you yell at a child anywhere, we all, you see, here's the thing. Coaches don't want to change because their feelings will be hurt, which I think is pretty ironic, because they want to be able to do whatever they want. And I'm saying in a public school setting, and I'm only talking about that, we have an educational purpose and we're spending taxpayer money. And I'm saying, why don't we teach them actually how to perform at their best, which has been studied? It's like you bought something at IKEA and it had 1,000 pieces and you had to put it together and there's a manual and you said, well, I don't need no manual. I'm doing it myself. That doesn't make any sense educationally.
If I could add one thing about my high school coach, George Wiedemeyer was also my history teacher. He also taught history.
Yeah.
And so we had a class and we're going, and I didn't read the thing. I didn't know what it was. And he's sitting up there at the desk. So I went up to him. I says, well, what am I supposed to do? What do you want? And he's up there drawing plays. Okay. He's up there. He's up at the desk. He's writing out plays. This is what he's doing. And so I asked him about the lesson. He said, well, did you read the lesson? I said, well, do you have questions about what you read? I said, well, He said, once you read the lesson and you have questions about the lesson, then come back and see me. And I used that. That lesson taught me everything I knew through college, because it told me that if you're going to ask questions, if you're going to know the subject, okay, this is the assignment, do your part, and then
Right.
ask the teacher so that you can talk about it.
You
And
sound
that's
like you
one of
had
the best
great
things I
adults.
learned in education.
You had great adults in your life, because the guy who instructed you on how you play the game, that's perfect. That's accountability right there. It's like, no, that's not the way you do it. This is the way you do it. Uh, in sports, we say that we teach all these things like sportsmanship, teamwork, resilience. So these concepts, how to focus, how to give all your effort, all of these wonderful things. But if you ask, the follow-up question was, well, how do you exactly teach that? There's a silence, because we don't teach it like sports specific skills, like a basketball player like me. You want to drop step, you wrap your leg around the right person, the right foot, and you put your foot this way, and it's all footwork, and that's explicit teaching. But implicit teaching is like me watching you dig a ditch. I learn what the tool is you use. I learn how hard the dirt is. I learn how hard it is to dig in that particular place, and that's implicit learning. I learn by observing, but not everyone actually learns by observing. Some people do, but some people don't. And that's why in sports, you don't teach sports specific skills implicitly. You're very explicit as to how it is. Well, you can't teach sportsmanship if you don't teach emotion management. And that's part of social emotional learning, teaches how to manage your emotion and how to practice it, not just do it. Or like focus. How many times have we heard coaches yell, focus out there? I'm waiting for the kid to turn around. Coach, you never taught us how to focus. I can't focus anywhere. My mind is all over the place. So, but social emotional learning teaches you how to do it in a step-by-step way. First, you think about your breath, then you substitute the coach's voice for the breath, then you practice in class when your mind wanders to bring your mind back. That's practicing focus. And then you use it in the fourth quarter of a game. By the way, the Celtics did win.
Yes, yes.
As we expected. But this is how you can actually explicitly teach. You can't teach these things with implicitly, like people will just get it. But there's ways to do it. That's why a curriculum guides the coach on how to teach this stuff. That's what a curriculum is for, as Anthony, I'm sure, knows. So that's why we have a curriculum. But we say extracurricular, but it was started at a time when there was no content. People were just playing games. And now we have a whole science, 120 years of science on sports psychology that teaches us exactly what mindset you actually need, the things you have to practice to be the best you can. Why don't we use it? That's my only question. Why don't we use it? And that's the national conversation we're trying to start at getpsychsports.org. And we have a free downloadable curriculum that I invite you guys to look at. If you go on getpsychsports.org, you hit curriculum, and you're going to see all the reasons that we say why a curriculum would be a good thing. It would mitigate all the headlines that you see. Mitigate, not end. It's not a panacea, but at least lessen it. We should be teaching kids about abuse. It happens. We should tell them what it is, and they should be reading that same curriculum like a textbook and learning about how to do all these different things that are right there. So we attempted an example of what it would look like. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. It needs, like all new things, refinement. There's never been a social emotional learning curriculum for sports teams, but it is exactly what it's all about. Social emotional learning is about like being on a team and how you get together. And one of the things, important things, is inclusivity. And you can teach all these lessons about racism and misogyny and homophobia right in sports, in all the little spaces that we have, warm ups, stretching, water breaks. All of this time can be taught. You don't need to have a classroom, obviously. And we all say that good coaches, like John Wooden always said, a, 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 a great coach will change your life. And we all know that's true. But most of our coaches aren't even teachers.
Well, Mitch, like I said, usually, our guests usually stay 10 or 20 minutes, and 20 or 30 minutes. And,
I've outstayed my welcome.
No, sir. We will invite you back.
Self-deprecation is a wonderful thing.
Yeah. Don, did you have any final questions for Mitch?
Well, no, we could spend like 3 or 4 shows just on this topic. You know that, right?
Oh, of course.
But
I wish you did.
I intend to bring other people in to see. This is something that I feel is important because we all talk sports, and we all come from, a different generation. Well, Mitch and I are the same.
Yeah.
But
So let me just say this because I coached for 30 years and I was under different systems. One coach that I started out with, he ran the old wing tee offense. And the last coach I worked for ran the spread, so we learned different offenses. But they also had different ways of reaching kids. The guy I coached with in Floresville. And Floresville is a rural community. We have a few wealthy families, small town Texas. We have a few wealthy families. We have significant middle class, but then we also have lower income. And so a lot of kids who were coming to us came from broken families, and we were the father figures.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did, we divided up by position, and I had the defensive lineman, and Coach Garcia had linebackers, and Coach Welch had the offense line. We had our positions, and the first 2 weeks of practice before practice, 2 weeks before that, we called every kid and said we're going to do a home visit, and we would go visit the families. Some had mom, dad, brothers, sisters, had dinner with them. We said, look, okay, so your child is going to be with us the next 4 or 5 months. And if they mess up, there's going to be consequences. We have what we call the breakfast club, which is just puke drills if they screw up. Just know that for every bad thing we have to say to your child, we're going to find 5 things before the end of practice to build them back up. And they sign contracts. And I love that approach because, the kids knew that we loved them, but they also knew that we were going to be very harsh if we had to. And
so here's can I ask a question about that? Because it's so interesting what you're saying. And I think it's that's the Wooden rule, by the way, the 5 to 1, say 5 good things and 1, but it's not bad. It's constructive criticism. Like when I used to demand that my men's basketball team bring goal books, these small little spiral notebooks, like a reporter's old time notebook, and write 3 goals down for your day. And they have to be the right goals, not better defense, but maybe get low on defense.
Go setting was real big with it.
Yeah. And what you did was fantastic because you established relationships with these people. So that's rule number 1, right? For good coaching, you have a relationship with the player. But I don't know whether what you mean by bad or harsh, because all you're doing is saying you didn't do it. Like with the goal books, when they didn't bring it, I'd say we're running 5 times around, around the gym, and don't cut corners, which is literally what people do when they run around a gym. They just cut the corner, but they're not allowed to cut corners. But the whole time I'm yelling, "This is not punishment. This is a reminder." Which the kids start. I mean, they're older, given, but they started laughing. Yeah, of course it's punishment, but I give it a different name. And when you said bad or harsh, I'm thinking it's constructive. Like we have a rule. You didn't do it. There's a consequence for it. And I think you did having dinner with him is fantastic. I couldn't say much more about it. My wife cooked a whole Italian dinner for the whole team when I was coaching in college. And it really develops relationships with players way beyond. And they do a lot more than they would if you were impersonal. So I applaud that, really. It's fantastic. I think we're coming from the same angle, but I think our terminology is a little different. Because if you said there will be consequences because I'm going to humiliate this person in front of the team, the contract might not be signed. But that's not what you did. So all you did is hold people accountable for their job, which is, of course, that's the normal thing to do. That's the right thing to do. But my point is that not everyone does the right thing. And we could be teaching we could reduce the abuse and introduce them to how powerful they are up here, that they are in control. And it's like, you've probably said this to teams. It's not us versus them. It's us versus us. How well can we execute what we've practiced? If we do it well, we have a better chance of winning, but not guaranteed. And that's, I think coaches need a curriculum to learn that. And I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about generally. There's a lot of people who don't. You go into any high school and ask the kids, who's the coach you don't want to play for? And it's not because they're not a good game coach. It has to do with the tone and how positive the experience is for them. And that's what we're doing. We're trying to start a national conversation about this very topic. Why not have a written curriculum? And I invite you guys to download that free curriculum we made up. It's well researched, 152 footnotes, and so it's really that by a whole group of people. And we have sports psychologists and anti-racist professor and a 3 masters in education, and me. I've been coaching like you for I coached. It's all in the past tense, but James and I are still kicking.
I mentioned, Mr. Scott, did you have any last words or questions for Mitch?
No, I guess I would just say a quick story in that when the Timberwolves came to Minnesota and they first they played at the Metrodome. Very first year they played at the Metrodome. It was a very weird setup.
Yeah.
But then when they built the stadium, they had a tournament, a kids tournament. And so my boys were playing at Pilgrim Lutheran School. And it's a little Lutheran school, K through 8. And actually, Larry Fitzgerald went to school with them. The football player who's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Larry Fitzgerald lived right down the street.
Oh, wow.
So I picked the kids up, and Larry wasn't on the team. But I put these kids together, and we went to the Target Center. I mean, it's just pro basketball, just the neighborhood kids. Their parents were there. And I looked at this team that came out there to play us from a school called Hopkins. And a guy was on their team by the name of Chris Humphreys. I don't know if you remember Chris Humphreys, but he was the number 1 draft pick and he was Kardashian, and he played 1 year at the
Yep.
University of Minnesota, and he was drafted. He was on their team. Okay, they came in with these black uniforms and all these drills, and my guys had cut off jeans and were just. I said, "Oh man, what did I do? Why in the world did I do this?" But we had one guy named Jabron Ike that was the legend player in the Twin Cities area. He ended up playing at Arkansas State. And he actually came to the university with Arkansas State and he lit up the Gophers. He must have scored 25 points against the Gophers from Arkansas State. So in this tournament, we played the Hopkins team first, and they had uniforms and drills. You could tell they were an actual team, and we beat them. I mean, it was the most unbelievable thing. Unbelievable.
Those are great stories.
We played another team. We beat them, and the net of this thing is we won the tournament. So by winning the tournament, we got a free meal. We got carte blanche to a Timberwolves game when they had our names and everything up on the billboards and everything. The flyers. I made up a team. Because we didn't have uniforms, I bought them T-shirts that just said the Flyers, so they could. After we won the first game, I said we can't come out there with these cutoff shorts and all these crazy uniforms. They won the whole thing. I mean, it was amazing. I have a big trophy there, and it's just getting neighborhood guys together to win that. I tell you, it was an awesome experience.
It sounds like it. I once did this, got involved in a team like that where we purposefully didn't get fancy uniforms. We only got them T-shirts, and they won the state championship.
Yeah, so
Right.
it was very interesting.
It was a great team. They actually beat on themselves. This is a 13-year-old group, 13 years old. They would challenge and say, who is going to be the first person on the floor for the ball? I mean, they really had the mentality to, really go out and give 100% effort. And it's fun when we coach like that. A lot of fun. Yeah. Thank you for the conversation, James.
I appreciate your time, Mitch. And, as I said, I'm sure we'll be inviting you back when we have a few more guys here. And, I had sent everyone the link to your different out, outreaches there, including the free one that you were talking about. There was another, I think you have a bill on the floor, you said, in Massachusetts?
We do. It's actually happening now. Right, this is the session where all of the votes are taken. The bill is to have the It's not a mandate by any stretch. It's only that the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is our DOE, our Department of Ed, publish guidelines for the implementation of a social emotional learning curriculum for sports teams so that school districts have a choice. They could stay with the way they are, or they could move athletics into the 21st century. That's the choice we want to give them. And we think that they will eventually go that way because all they read about is sports psychologists on this team and that team, and they don't know anything about it. And I think parents will say, why don't we? It's not everybody's going to become a psychologist per se that is treating mental illness. No, this is about generally understanding the concepts that go into playing at your best. What do you have to do, and in order to do that? And so these are general principles like create a positive environment, like be inclusive, like learning about how to give your maximum effort because it can be taught. It's not innate. It is in some people, but the others actually can be taught through visualization. I've done it many times with teams, and focus, and emotion management and goal setting. These are general principles that will serve them well in their careers. And why not teach them that? All in a positive environment. I don't know, but when we had, I don't know if you guys know the 11-man drill in basketball, but it really gets a lot of, as shows, 11 people involved, and to get the group going, I would pretend I was a sportscaster and give a play-by-play as they were doing it. It was so much fun. The kids were laughing the entire way while playing really well, and they just enjoyed the whole experience. And I think that kind of feeling that all kids should be enjoying, instead of the tension that so many players feel all the time. One of our members, by the way, is the Texas Center for Sports Psychology, a doctor named Julie Wiernick, and she was involved in our book because so many cases come to her of people having post-traumatic stress. Yeah, and well, you know what it is. You were in NAM, so you certainly know what it is.
No,
And
we had battle fatigue. You modern people have post-traumatic stress.
and my father too.
See,
He definitely suffered from it. He was at Iwo Jima fishing bodies out of the water, so he had plenty of that.
All right, Mitch. Like I said, you have a good night. Now I know you're up there in Massachusetts, so
it's already past my bedtime, buddy.
all right. Well, thank you much. I got to do the same with Don and them. They're in a different time zone too, so I got to get them under the covers too. So, thank you very much, Mitch. And
hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
all right.
You take care. All of you. Be well.
Yeah, take care.
Stay safe. Be well.
So guys, like I said, I thought it would be interesting to hear someone of my generation talk about sports management and the psychology of sports and different things like that. Kind of things that some things that I had a gripe about, like I said, participation trophies and different things like that. But I intend to get like some other people on to talk about. What did you think about that, Don? As an educator and a coach?
I see where he's coming from. That it's kind of that new age approach to athletic society. I get it; they're out there. Some of it I can get into. Some of it not. I don't know. Like I'm not going to spend time at practice. Tell my kids about homophobia. What the fuck is that? It has nothing to do with sports. I mean, if one of my players is gay, well, he's gay. Go get the quarterback. I'm not gonna sit there and lecture them about homophobia and sexism. No. That's I'm more about gap control and linebacker scraping the hole and point of contact, that type of stuff. I don't need to go beyond what's going on in the classroom. But that's me. That I'm not saying that my way is the right way. That's just Don Hayes' way.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? I mean,
Well, it's the world we live in now. I mean, it's just who's in the locker room taking showers. It's the world we live in now, but I keep it basic. I mean, everything's out in the open now. All stuff is out in the open and shouldn't be. I mean, hell, sports has been sports, and it's like one against one against, I mean, kind of keep your position, and so, it's a new world, and I've made efforts now to try to adapt to it, but it just doesn't resonate with me. It just doesn't resonate. I can't really.
So James, let me ask you this, okay? when
Sure.
but before you shipped out to Vietnam, was your drill instructor, was he abusive or was he aggressive or was he kind and gentle? Your DI,
All of
first
the
aid.
above. All of the above. If you caught him off duty, yeah, he was kind and gentle. Now, if he was on duty, he was abusive. He was. I had some other names for him too, you know. But I'll tell you an interesting story about that. I was on a winning football team in the Army, and we were scheduled to play the team that eventually became the champs.
What position did you play?
I played corner. And, at the time, like I said, if you got that step in front of me, you got to drop hip tackle. It was by any means necessary to get you on the ground because if I didn't, then somebody else was playing my spot next game. But anyway, we played this team and they beat us by 3 points. 3.5 weeks later, all our asses were in Vietnam. They went to Germany to play again. I'm not saying that there was a coalition there, but so there were consequences. But like you said, if it wasn't, I used to have when I first went in basic training, and they teach you under live fire, and you're going under, the barbed wire and this and this. Well, I used to have a habit of keeping my ass up in the air. Well, after I kept getting the boot in my ass, eventually I kept my ass down. It wasn't, that he took me back and said, "Hey, James, would you please mind?" So, all this, and, when I was in high school, you either got a letter or you didn't.
Yeah.
If you were the last guy on the bench, the guys didn't all come. Oh, Johnny, we're sorry that you didn't get a chance to play in the game. It wasn't, so to me this is all kind of new. LGBTQ. We had one letter. I'm not going to necessarily say what it was on the air, but anyway. So like I said, at my age, I kind of like to see, what this generation is thinking, and to find someone my age that was actually participating in it, I thought might be a little interesting. And Don, like I said, I didn't think this was the way they played football in Texas, but I just thought it might be. Or basketball, for that matter.
Like I was telling, I said, my dad, he grew up in that generation where all the coaches were World War II vets, and they just passed that down. And our off seasons run like boot camps. We had to say, "Sir, no, sir, sir, yes, sir." We were in straight lines. Our coach said we believe in square edges. Everything's square. We had the dress code. We couldn't have hair touching our ears. During the season. We were very.
Yeah.
And now the number one draft pick football player paints his nails.
Yes.
Yes.
He paints his nails, and he's proud of
it. In today's society, I guess my coach would be called neo-fascist, I guess, because everything was so regulated. We on game days we had to wear a tie to school. We had to wear a coat because sometimes in October is still hot. We had to wear a tie on game days.
Yeah. I remember that white shirt. And I remember we had white shirt and tie days. And there was, like I said, from Pop Warner on, there was always that one fat kid that was always getting yelled at. So what is it now? Weight challenged or whatever. But anyway, you guys know what I'm saying. So, like I said, very, very interesting times, And in some respects, I mean no respect to Don here, Mr. Scott, but in some cases that's the same way with education. We just we just pass our kids, and they aren't really equipped with the skills that they need to be graduating high school or going on in life. But that's another rant altogether. Uh, you know. So, guys, I got just a couple questions here before we get into the meat of uh, our show. But Mr. Anthony, I'm going to put you on the spot here too. But Bronny was medically cleared to play in the NBA. Do you think the Lakers will have to acquire Bronny in order to keep taking my talents? What do you think there, Don? Taking my talents is LeBron. That's Mr. Scott's pet name for him.
Well, just because he's cleared, that don't mean he's good enough. I mean, I don't understand. I haven't seen anything that says that he's an NBA caliber type player at all. I mean, this is just a real publicity stunt for whatever reason. I don't know. Take my talents. He's just gotten ridiculous now. I mean, is he going to keep playing with the Lakers? Is he going to play? Is he going to retire? I mean, take my talents. I mean, he's almost like, go away. Really. I mean, really. I mean, it's 40 years old. Why don't you coach the team then? Because you've run people in and out of time. You got rid of coaches. You run coaches out. Well, maybe they should just make him the coach and just be done and see what happens. But take my talents is just really, I'm just fed up with him. I mean, I really am. And I don't think his son, I don't think he's quality NBA player. I mean, this is just, he has power in the league and I wouldn't want him. I wouldn't want him.
I just came back from Vegas, and they're excited for him to retire because rumor is he's going to have a team in Vegas. But,
yeah, that's the rumor. That's been the rumor for a while. Yeah, that he's going to he's going to become an owner. He wants to top Jordan, and be an owner, and then he wants to be more than Jordan. He wants to be, but he never will be. But this is what he's trying to do.
Yeah, well, what do you think is happening here, Don?
Well, I don't think Bronny is at best he's a developmental league player. I mean, he's not. He has the pedigree, but he doesn't have the skill set. So I just don't think that's a path he needs to be taking. I mean, I would just play as much basketball as I can before declaring for a draft or anything. But I think there's other things behind it. Money, money.
Well, his little brother's better than he is too. That's that's another thing. It's kind of like the Ball family.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I'm ready to move on from the LeBron James saga. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. He needs to go. Well, yeah, everybody's tired of it. Take my talents and all this. He's done his thing. I mean, 40 years old. That's just not it's time to give it up. But
all right, now Mr. Scott, last week you was talking a little stuff like we're gonna get our bets on when OKC and the Timberwolves play, but right now looks like things have changed up. Last time we talked, you were 2-0. Now you're 2-3. Mr. Scott, are the Timberwolves in? Are we going to have a backdoor sweep here, where they win their first two and then get swept out, or are you smelling what the Joker's brewing down here, Mr. Scott? What's going on?
well, I'll just respond to that by saying that JK3 is a fraud. He's very fraudulent. Because last week you saying, that, I tried to tell him the real about Rudy Gobert, and then you came and said, "Well, now what do you think?
No, wait, no.
He's ahead of the league. He's a defensive player."
Well,
Rudy
didn't he get the trophy?
Gobert has no answer for the Joker. I mean,
But
he's a
didn't
scarecrow.
did he not get the trophy? Did they not give him the trophy before the game? Defensive Player of the Year.
Fine, but against the game
So
against Denver,
it's not
he's a scarecrow.
that
He's a
JK
scarecrow.
is fraudulent.
He's
I'm
a
not
scarecrow,
fraudulent.
dancing dolly, jumping around. The man scored 40 points on him, just had no problem, like he wasn't even there, like he's invisible. He just, that was just pitiful. And unless he really just, gives this man, get in his face, get physical with him, do something. Oh, he was just doing whatever he wanted, just pass the ball, dancing around. So
47.
No, Rudy Gobert is a scarecrow, and unless he gets this thing together, I hate to say it, but I think it's going to go 7. I'll just say that. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think we'll win this next game in Denver.
Okay. All right. But if your Timberwolves win, as I said, I thought that the winner of that series was going to be the champs, and but I just it's. I think we all underestimated OKC, and I think proof of the way they came back in the last game against the Mavericks proves that those young kids really do belong there. So I'm looking forward to that series, maybe going 7. So, Don, you got any thing you want to say about OKC? Any of these guys here? I do want to kind of mention, Don, if even though they gave Wembley the Rookie of the Year, if Chet Holmgren, this young kid from OKC, if he gets to win a Western champ title, does that put him in the same category once again?
Yeah, you can make that point. Wemby just had a phenomenal year for a very bad team. As the season went on, the Spurs in the last 3 weeks of the season, they were actually playing pretty decent basketball. So I think they're to a good start for next year. Get some trades in the off season and draft well. But what we're seeing from some other rookies is pretty good also. So I think I think Wemby had the he definitely had the hype behind him. I mean, he did great, but I'm just saying he also was expected to win it. You know what I'm saying? That the voters were. I think he had a little bit of an edge there because of all the hype.
Wemby should have been the defensive player of the year. He should. When you look at the stats, when you look at everything, he should have been the defense. There's no question about it. But like you say, he was good on a bad team. And that's the thing that kind of held him back. And Holmgren, he's a Minnesota boy. I've seen him play here. Oh, he's dominant. He really has some very good skills. He just needs to grow into his body some more. He needs a little bit more heft.
He definitely needs that because he's, it's amazing that, for his frame and his size that he can play, because I really thought that they'd, he had a 3-point shot, but I thought they'd make him stay out there. But he's got the blocking ability, he'll put the ball on the floor. Like you said, now, he needs to put on a few more pounds, but, he's there. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to talk a little baseball here, and I'm going to put on my Black Sox because something smells fishy in Denmark here. Okay. So we have Otani's interpreter and the gambling scandal, and they're going to actually develop that into a TV series. Now, Otani says that he didn't know about, he wasn't involved in any of these activities at all. Okay. But That's $40 million, gentlemen. Okay. Now this computes out, and I did this on the internet. This computes out to 6,212,040,000 Japanese yen. So are you really telling me? I know you're not an accountant, and anyway, this was your interpreter. But are you really telling me that you didn't miss 6 billion yen or $40 million? Now, Pete Rose was banned from baseball for gambling, and I'm not really a Pete Rose fan. But guys, what the fuck happened here? And Mr. Scott, I know you won't curse in that, but I mean, how do you not miss? Like I said, if you don't miss $40 million, you don't miss 6 billion yen.
Well, Otani's defense is, I know speaking English.
That's why I converted it into yen, because you do speak. If you don't speak English, then you have to speak with the dollars and cents of your Native American country, your native country.
What did this guy say on the? I know nothing.
I see. I put that in there too. He had
Sergeant
no
Schultz.
Schultz, yeah. I know nothing.
Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
I know nothing. So.
Don, what do you think? I mean, like I said, we threw Pete Rose out of baseball. He can't even get in the Hall of Fame. But
Okay.
Maybe
So,
Pete should have said, "I know nothing."
I'm going to say some stuff that's probably politically incorrect.
I'm surprised. I'm shocked by that.
So, in American culture, gambling is accepted. Some people gamble, some people don't. It's it's just one of those things. It's like smoking and drinking, whatever. Gambling in Japanese culture is a whole different thing. They'll bet on which window
the furthers.
Yeah, they'll bet on which side of the window the bird will shit on, stuff like that. My brother-in-law, he's been over to Asia several times, and he said that gambling is like there's a gambling house on every corner. It's part of their culture, and so he's thinking, well, I lost several billion yen, whatever. So what? So he's coming from that culture to the United States, where we look down on gambling as far as professional sports, and you're part of that sport, like Pete Rose. So I think he knows more English than he's saying. I don't think his translator interpreter was stealing from him. I think they were in cahoots. We just can't prove. I guess we really can't prove it. But I'm just saying they're coming from a place where they see nothing wrong with it. And if your culture sees nothing wrong in doing it, and you try to come to another culture, well, guess what? Like example, if I go to Japan and I enter someone's house, I'm gonna take my shoes off, right? That's cultural expectation. So when he's coming over here, he still has that thing. I'm gonna wear my shoes wherever I want to, as far as as a substitute for gambling, I guess. So it's just it's a cultural thing. I don't think it's criminal. I don't think he's intended to be criminal or unethical, but that's accepted in Japan. In China, it's probably worse.
The funny you say that, because years ago, a group of guys and I would get together and go to Vegas. And I ended up staying at this place, the Imperial Palace. Okay. And that's basically a Oriental type of hotel in Vegas. Okay. And I'm telling you, I've seen cats gambling like I have never seen in my life. I've seen
Yes.
stacks of chips.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like it. And then all of a sudden, over the loudspeaker, a lady says, "Mr. Take a Shitter, would you please come to the door? Mr. Take a Shitter." I said, "Well, that's not the man's name. You're not saying it right." They were gambling like I've never seen in my entire life. I mean, they were just, oh my goodness, just pushing everything out there. Yeah, right at the Imperial Palace.
Yeah, I mean,
So, well, one of my good friends was in Vegas, and his rule of thumb is he won't go to a table if there's a bunch of Asians there. It's just, hey, because I don't have that kind of money to gamble. And so he'd been drinking a little bit. He'd been drinking a little bit, and he has some friends with him. He goes, no, we need to stay away from this table. He said, there's too many Chinese in here.
Yeah.
And the guy heard him.
High rollers. High rollers.
The guy heard him says, fuck you. We Vietnamese. We know Chinese.
Yeah, but
I thought that was funny. I mean, just we're not Chinese.
And like I said, I just came from Vegas, and if you go to the high rollers room, I'm not saying that there's one dominant race that's there, but I would say if there's 10 players there might be 6 of them, or at least 4. You go to the blackjack and they're not. Like I said, this is the high roller table. This isn't where the normal tourists and that go. I mean, this usually means you're starting out at 5,000 at the least. So but you got 6 players at a table, 5,000. Ante, and then whatever you bet. So,
but how can they arrest Otani's interpreter? I mean, because he betting. So how do they know what he bet? Who do they know who he bet with? I mean, did he bet with
there's a whole story behind this because supposedly Otani's interpreter has pled guilty to 2 counts of theft, and they've given him a plea bargain, and the money was funneled through a reality TV star to casinos here in California and Vegas.
How does an interpreter get hold of your money? That's BS.
Well, like I said,
this is a bunch of bullshit. How in the world does he get a hold of the man's? He just interpret. He just on a paycheck. He hold the man's money. Unless he told him about the money. Unless he told him the account numbers and told him. So Otani
he was my friend, and he had access to my money.
Okay.
He was. You won't find too many interpreters here in America that has access to but I guess once again maybe like Don said, that's a cultural thing. So let's get our NFL things in here, gentlemen. Still got on my Black Sox too. Now we have Netflix that is going to host the Christmas games. We have 2. If you want to see Thursday night football, you got to have Amazon Prime. Of course, Monday night, you got Monday Night Football on ABC. The NFL says that they want to go to an 18-game season. You notice there's a trend here, or am I just opening up another pair of Black Sox? I mean, are we going to be watching, okay, let's see, we got Christmas, so I guess what's next? When basketball games are played on Thanksgiving Day, are you going to have them on Hulu? Another one is going to be on Sling. Are you going to have to subscribe to some type of cable or would I have streaming service in order for you to enjoy the sports that you really like anymore? You want to start with that one, Don? What do you think?
Well, we play. We have football games on Thanksgiving. We've had basketball games on Christmas as it is. I kind of wish they would keep that day open just for spiritual reasons, personal reasons, but I understand that money has to be made, and so Netflix wants to join in into the sports media thing. I guess there's nothing we can really do to stop it. I sound like the hypocrite because I don't want football on Christmas, but if it's on, I'll watch it. So I'm just saying that's just the way I am. But anyway.
But do you see? Do you find this trend toward having these different media outlets, kind of gobbling? Like if I don't have Netflix, I can't watch Christmas football. If I don't have the NFL Network, I can't watch certain games. If I don't have NBA season ticket, I mean, do you think that we're going to have, all our sports are going to be on these, pay-per-view more or less networks from now on?
That's a scary thought because there's so many different streaming services now. I mean, you got Hulu, you got Netflix, you got Disney, you got HBO, you have Paramount.
Right, I just mentioned four right here with with 4 different games.
Yeah, so I'm afraid that's probably where we're going to trend to is having that. If I were in charge, I'd have ESPN, Fox, CBS.
Well, hey,
then football college. Of course, NBC has their Sunday night football, which is okay.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to have to go to Netflix or Hulu to watch my football.
What about you, Mr. Scott? You think this is another money making? Like I said, now the NBA, the NFL wants to have 2 more games. I mean that's 2 more games to put up there for bidding. What do you think, Mr. Scott?
Well, they're going overseas now. Let's face it, we're being held up. I mean, this is the thing. We're just being held up without a gun. They're just, as Ray Charles would say, they've taken us by our ankles and they just keep shaking until your pockets are empty. I mean, this is what they're doing. I've got a thing here. Somebody told me, actually, I got it, but I haven't set it up yet because I don't know how. Something called a Fire Stick.
Yep, same thing I got right there.
He says if I get that, I can go ahead and I can bypass all this other foolishness. And so I've got one and it's been programmed. I just haven't had time to sit around and do it. So, I mean, I guess you just got to try to stay ahead of the game. I mean, that's the reality. They're just going to try to just take every dime you got. They don't want to leave you with nothing. They want to just, rob you. They know people are used to seeing the games. They want to see now the Twins. You can't even see the Twins here in Minneapolis.
Yeah, see,
they went bankrupt. That whatever the sports thing was.
Comcast.
No, it's not Comcast. It's some
Peacock?
Valley Sports.
Okay.
Some kind of thing that went through Comcast, but so you can't see the games. All you get is a message when you go to the station. So, and they're supposed to adjust your bill. They're not going to do that. I mean, it's a crooked racket, and there's not a whole lot of people can do about it. It's crooked as 2 left shoes. I mean, come on, everybody can see it.
Mr. Scott, which rookie quarterback is entering the NFL with the best possibility of having a winning season? And by winning season, I'm talking about 8-8. No, it's 60. Was it 16 games now? So he would have to be 8-7-1. I'll consider that a winning
Well,
season.
I think the Bears quarterback is the only one they have anointed as the starter. That he's coming in and they're building the thing around him. I don't think they've said that about the other quarterbacks, have they? They've definitely come out. Bears have said this is our man. This is it. So I mean, if you can't win games if you don't play. So I guess I'd have to go with Mr. Fingernail. I guess. I don't know.
Okay. What do you think there, Don?
You know, I kind of like Drake May, but it'll probably be Caleb Williams. You know,
Okay. But do you think that Caleb is going? You think that the Bears are going to improve that much? That they will
nope.
be at least 8-7-1?
No, in fact, I think they're going to regress before they get better. They might get better, you know, in a year or two, but I think this year they're going to regress. I don't. The Bears have more problems than you know who's under center. Like I said, I don't see Caleb Williams as being a game changer at that position. I could be wrong, but you know I don't see him being like a Lamar Jackson or anything like that. So we'll find out, but I just don't. I don't think he's mentally fragile. I don't think he's mentally tough enough to withstand the some of the stuff that's going to go on in the NFL. I mean, you know, that infamous video of him crying in his mom's arms after during a game or after a game. This didn't sit well. Painting his fingernails doesn't sit well. The dude is like something's wrong.
He's got feelings.
Yeah, he has feelings. Maybe he needs
Did we just have this conversation?
We're talking sports psychology. Maybe he needs.
He's a hug.
Yeah.
Good hug. Yes.
Oh man, you guys!
Actually, the Vikings guy, if he plays, I just think they're going to play the Sam Darnold. I mean, they gave him $10 million, and Sam Darnold, he might surprise you. I mean, if they build around and if they get Jefferson, and now they're looking at getting Kareem Hunt, as another running back to go along with Aaron Jones.
Yeah, that's the same thing they said about the Cavaliers after they won game 2, Mr. Scott. Hey, maybe it's only Boston, but no.
No, but this is different. This division, thank goodness Dimitri's not here, so we have to hear about all this Lion, stuff. But
I'm going to ask you.
And then they gave him a bunch of money. I saw that they gave Jared Goff a bunch of money. I saw they gave him a bag. They gave him a bag. I saw that.
I'm going to ask you about that as soon as we get off this discussion here. So, yes, they did give Jared Goff a bag. As a matter of fact, they gave him $212 million. Okay. That's like $84.1 million per season. And they gave him $170 million of that guaranteed. So, Mr. Scott, what do you think about Mr. Goff getting the bag?
Well, I've said it. I think that they've been just bamboozled. I mean, the guy does something one time. I mean, his history behind this. I mean, again, apparently they just believe these quarterbacks, giving Cousins $180 million, 100 guaranteed, had won one playoff game. I mean, so, that's, I mean, I should have kept working on my throwing skills, trying to tackle people.
What do you think there, Don? $212 million, a 4-year extension, $84.1 million a year, 170 of that guaranteed, Don. That means he puts that in his pocket. What do you think, Don? About
That's
the
like the
Lions?
yen, isn't it?
No, I didn't convert that one, Don. After I saw
Yeah.
what 40 million.
Yeah. So I think Goff is he's become one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's getting a little bit better, but I don't know if he's worth that much. Um, you think of someone like Brock Purdy. I mean, I'd rather have Brock Purdy as my quarterback than Jared Goff. But one thing we know about the NFL and these owners that they'll throw good money at bad all the time. Um, Jerry Jones is probably the worst at it, but I think there's other owners in the league who are copying that method. So I wish Demetrius was here to talk about it, but maybe we'll get his thoughts next week.
Well, Don, it's interesting that you mentioned Jerry Jones, because if Dak is getting a 4-year extension for $212 million, what do you think Dak is going to ask for? So, do you think that the Cowboys can afford Dak? Can they afford to give him the bag, which means that he's going to be making more money than Mr. Goff? What are you thinking here? Is this the last year for Dak in Dallas, Don, or is he going to get
Um,
250 million and 200 guaranteed?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what the thinking is on that. I think Dak is not getting younger. He has the years on golf, but I just can't read Jerry Jones' mind. So
Well, would you pay him more than they're paying Goff?
no, I would not.
Okay.
But I'm a little bit more careful with my money than Jerry Jones is. He has what we call fuck you money. You know what I'm saying? And uh, it
Yeah.
must be nice, but I think if push comes to shove, he will throw the money bags in Dak's direction, and then he'll throw that money and then probably uh, cut him or trade him within 2 years. That's just the Jerry Jones way,
All right. Okay. All right. What do you think? What do
Ask,
you
ask,
think?
ask Brian about that.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Can the Cowboys afford to keep Dak if he asks for more than uh, Jared Goff?
Well, he's under contract for this year, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens this year. I mean, I don't think he's going to be
Well,
getting. You got to see what he does before he gets some more bag. I mean, he's iffy. He's very iffy. I mean, as far as getting huge bag. But then again, they give Cousins bag, they give Goff bag. They haven't won anything, so. I mean, if he doesn't get hurt and he does competitive, maybe they'll pay, because only one can win. See, this is the thing where it comes down to only one champion. It's only one, and so
yeah.
they're all trying to get there. And it's how much do they want to pay to try to get there? Because only one of them going to win.
But it seems like the champions, when you talk about Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, these guys, like they're willing to take team-friendly deals in order to keep the team around them, their weapons around them. I mean, and make up their other money in other ways. Dak, I'm sure he has his endorsement package, and I'm sure, I'm sure he's not going to be homeless anytime soon. But I don't know if he walks up to Jerry and says, Jerry, this is what uh, golf makes, and then he slides the little white piece of paper across the table and says, Jerry, this is what I want. You know, and so Jerry opens that flap. Is he going to say, you might need to find another team, or is he going to say, all right, well, call the banker and we'll wire it in tomorrow? So.
Well, I mean, I don't have any inside information or anything, but I don't think Dak is a all-time favorite of Jerry Jones. I mean, I really don't. I mean, he hasn't really come through. He had the injury.
I think if Jerry was going to give him the bag, he'd already done it. But that's just that's just me.
Yeah, probably.
Don, how many games? We're going to go to our way too soon predictions here because I haven't. I've been watching the game. I haven't really seen the schedule that come out, so I just got a couple questions here. Don, over under 5. How many games do you think the Bears will have on TV this year?
All of them. Every
No,
NFL game.
I mean on national TV. I'm not talking about just your local. I mean on national TV.
Oh, okay. I would say.
That's why I said over under 5.
Yeah, under 5.
Okay. What do you think, Mr. Scott?
What was the question again?
How many games do you think the Bears will play on national TV? Over or under 5?
Oh yeah, they should be under. The Bears are not on anybody's big radar. I mean, even though they have that number 1 quarterback, I understand that, but I guess then they can change the schedule. I mean, if they start going 3-0, 4-0, maybe they'll get some, but right off the bat, no, I wouldn't write them in.
Okay. Well, what about this one, Mr. Scott? Like I said, this is way too soon. But the first Thursday night football game is the Dolphins versus the Bills. Who wins that first Thursday night game, Mr. Scott?
What channel is it on?
It's on Amazon.
Well,
It's on Prime Video.
I won't be watching, so I don't know. I don't think Buffalo. Who is it? Buffalo and who?
Buffalo and Miami.
Oh, I'll take Miami. They should run over them.
Okay. What do you think there, Don?
I think that's going to be a good game. But I think Miami is a little bit more hungry than Buffalo right now. That should be a good game to watch, though.
Okay. We got another Thursday night football here. Don, Ayahuasca and the Jets play the 49ers on Thursday night football. Who you got?
49ers going to mop the floor with them for sure.
Okay. What do you think there, Mr. Scott? Ayahuasca's first game back is going to be against the 49ers. What do you think?
49ers and who?
The 49ers and the Jets. Aaron Rodgers. Ayahuasca.
No. They're not going to do anything. 49ers, They got 49ers actually got something to prove this year. So you're going to have to watch out for them. They want to win this thing this time. So
all right, Mr. Scott. The first game in the UK is Ayahuasca's Jets against your Vikings. Who you got, Mr. Scott? I no idea. I mean, you guys are all talking about the great Aaron Rodgers and all that. I mean,
Yeah,
and you got
I have no idea what Rodgers is
you
going
got and you got Sam Donald. I mean, Aaron
to.
Rodgers versus Sam
Rodgers
Donald.
is so goofy, and I don't even know what they have around him with the Jets. And then playing overseas, it's going to be on at 8:30 in the morning, probably at 6:30 in the morning where you're at. So I mean, I take the Vikings. I mean, I would take them.
You don't sound too enthusiastic there, Mr. Scott. But
Well,
Don, what do you think?
is he ready to play? Is he going to be healthy? Is he? I think that's early in the season too, if I'm not mistaken. So
His first game. It's his first game
so,
against.
I don't.
Will he be around for game 2? Is my question.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
What do you think, Don? The Jets against the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers against Sam Darnold in England. What do you
Vikings. The Vikings are going to do to the Jets things that are illegal in some states. So, yeah, I'm going to Vikings.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you and Mr. Scott are now allies, but okay. Let's see. Week 2, the Chiefs versus the Bengals. Don,
Chiefs.
what do you think, Mr. Scott?
Yeah, I have to go. I have to stick with the Chiefs. Chiefs all the way.
Okay. Christmas Day. If you don't have Netflix, Mr. Scott, the first game is the Chiefs against the Steelers, and the second game is the Ratbirds against the Texans.
Well, Chiefs will run the Steelers out of the stadium, and the Birds and the Texans. Boy, that's a real good game. That is real over. I'm taking it over.
Who over? The Texans or the Ravens? You can't just say the over. You got to say which team.
No, the game over.
Oh, you said the total score, but we want a winner. I got grandma's insulin money here, Mr. Scott.
Well, I like Baltimore.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
And
And
because it's going to come down to Baltimore and San Francisco for the whole thing. So.
And Mr. Scott, I'm a realist, although I am a fan. And, I do think that the Chiefs will win, even though the game is in Pittsburgh. Also being a fan or not being a fan of the Ravens, I will definitely pick the Texans. So, Don, who you got here?
Hate to do it to you, James. I'm going Chiefs. I think Pittsburgh will put up a good fight. They always do. But yeah, Chiefs will win that one. And then for a mild upset, I'm going to say the Texans beat Baltimore.
Okay, I don't know about
the Texans were a team last year that whipped some ass, and they were not getting, I think, the proper credit. So
yeah.
I'll go.
I don't know if you could call it an upset. Now us beating the Chiefs, I would think that would be an upset, but it's just me. Okay, Don, the first meeting of the Cowboys and the Eagles. Who you got?
Cowboys.
Ooh, okay.
Well, the Eagles haven't really shown me much.
Okay.
But the second half of last year, they were not a team that impressed at all. They degressed from the previous year. So the Cowboys are still – the Cowboys aren't terrible. They'll win some games.
No, they'll win some games, and they might get to the playoffs, but they fold under pressure. That's the only problem. Yeah. So What do you think there, Mr. Scott? The first meeting of the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Where is it?
That's why I don't know the schedule. That's why I said the first meeting of the Cowboys. They play each other twice, so that's why I said the first meeting, regardless of where it is. Who do you
Yeah.
think wins that first meeting?
I go with whoever's at home wins.
Okay, you go for the home team. All right. Well, we'll have to look that up in the schedule. The schedule should have came out at the same time that the playoffs started. So I haven't looked on the NFL network yet, but the schedule is out now. It came out at 6 o'clock, and we came on the air. Okay, Mr. Scott, the first meeting of the Seahawks and the 49ers. And that first meeting is in Seattle. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, 49ers all the way. You know, they're one of the best teams in the league.
Okay. What do you think, Don?
Uh, 49ers are going to that might be a 15, 16 point game. 49ers.
Oh, okay. So we got the 49ers winning at least 2 games since they open up against the Jets. And then they play the 49ers, the Seahawks. Okay. Mr. Scott, this is for you here. The first meeting of Mr. Massage and Russell Wilson.
Oh, very interesting game. Very, very interesting game. Oh, boy, that is. And again, where is it?
Cleveland.
I'll take Massage. I'll take Massage in Cleveland.
Oh man! Oh my goodness!
I'll take him in Cleveland. Yeah, I'll
Oh,
take him at home. He's got to redeem himself. I mean, really, he has just been a laughing stock. He's got to redeem himself.
okay, yeah. This is. I'm gonna make sure I record this, Mr. Scott.
Boy, your recordings are AI. I'm not gonna fall from subscribe to your recordings. I mean,
Interestingly
it
enough,
verified. It has to be verified somehow.
Interestingly enough, I did write our scripts tonight in AI. Just to try and see what it's like. Yeah, it is interesting that you mentioned that. Don, what do you think? The first meeting of Mr. Massage and Russell Wilson, the Browns against the Steelers.
I'm gonna go Browns.
Oh my goodness! And I was all right when you guys picked the Chiefs, but when you start picking the Browns, my goodness. Okay, all right.
Well, it's not like I want to pick them, but if it comes down between those two quarterbacks, I think Russell Wilson he's on that downward trend. I just don't think he's not the quarterback he was 6-7 years ago.
But do you think Mr. Massage is, and he hasn't thrown a pass in almost 2 years?
I think he has more to prove.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Last one, gentlemen, before our final thoughts here. The first meeting of the Vikings and the Lions, and it is in Minnesota. What do you think there, Don?
Lions for sure. I mean, the Detroit had every reason to be in the Super Bowl last year, and they just choked. So I think they're a good team. I think their coach is a great motivator. But I think Coach Campbell, a little bit of pressure, he kind of cracks under pressure. So, but yeah, against the Vikings, there should be a whole lot of pressure. They should they should win that one going away.
All right. Well, you're 1-1 with Don. Now I know because with Mr. Scott, you picked the Vikings over the Jets, but I don't know. You might have stepped on those few toes here. So, Mr. Scott, the first meeting of the Lions and the Vikings at the Vikings home. Both of them play under domes, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So what is this? First game, second, third, fourth? Do we know that yet? Or
No, we don't know that yet.
yeah,
Since,
because that
since,
matters.
since, since you're playing, since you're playing,
It matters when the game is. See, it matters. See, you
okay.
can't really. So it's kind of hard to.
Well, we know that it's not opening week because, well, let's see. We had the Vikings in the UK, so it would probably be after week 6. Because that's when you would start division play. Before that, you go through you got 3 games with your whatever division you're matched against, and then you got a couple of those gimme games, and so I would say it's after game 6. If maybe I can get the schedule up now. Let me see.
Well, over the years, the Vikings have made their living over the Lions. The record has just been resounding over the Lions over the years. So I'm gonna default to that.
Let's see. Okay, the schedule is up here, Mr. Scott. Let's see. Okay, so regular season, you start out with the Giants, then you play the 49ers, then you play the Texans, then you play the Packers. So that was game 4. See, I hit it right on the head. It's game 6, and it's a 10 a.m. game, which means it starts out first, and it's actually at the Lions. So does that change? How does that make it for you, Mr. Scott? It's the 6th game of the year, and you're playing at the Lions.
Yeah, we you can just look at the
It's
record
it's the
historically. The
week
Vikings,
after it's the week after you play the Jets, so you should be coming off a win.
yeah, the record is just impeccable over the Lions. So I'll always take the Vikings over the Lions and the Bears.
You finished 7-10 like the Bears last year, Mr. Scott. Do you guys improve on that record, or does it get worse?
Wow. Yeah, we improve on that record.
Okay, all right, okie dokie. So, Don, your final thoughts for the evening, my man. Glad to have you here with us, and I look for Demetrius and the guys to be back next week. Reggie will join us. Your final thoughts for the evening, Don.
My final thoughts. Well, I don't have anything really sports related. It's just
Your
more of
final
a
thoughts. It can be about anything.
yeah, it could be anything. Right now, going through the nation, young people are graduating from college, they're graduating from high school. We've got end of year activities going on, and so I'm hoping that very soon that our young people get a little bit more of a wake up call, because in real life, like we were talking about earlier, life doesn't give you a trophy for wiping your ass. Uh, we live in a meritocracy. Nothing's handed to you. You must earn it. And so I'm hoping that this generation comes to its senses. I'm tired of these kids on social media bitching and complaining about how much their life sucks. I have students whose lives truly do suck, and they don't complain about it. So my final thoughts are these kids need to grow a pair of balls and take life, a little bit more seriously and stop, start preparing for the real world, because we're not doing our youth any we're not doing them favors by calling all the time. That's my final thought.
Yeah, Don, it's interesting that you say that, because life does give you a trophy if it's kicking your ass, But people like that, like
Yeah.
usually the people that have the most to complain about are the people that least complain.
Yes, exactly.
So
And so let me explain what kind of triggered me on this one. So I'm watching TV. I'm kind of multitasking, and the Ivy League anti-Israel protesters are on the hunger strike, and I'm like, what the fuck are you on a hunger strike for? You can starve yourself. It's not going to change what's going on in Israel and Palestine. That's been going on for 3,000 years. Get your ass in class, eat a meal, and run for public office or do whatever. But hunger strike, what the fuck are you thinking about? And then they demand the school bring them food and water. It's like, no, you're on hunger strike.
Yeah. I mean, hey, people that usually go on a hunger strike have never been hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's homeless people that are on a hunger strike every day.
Exactly.
So, but like I said, I got my black socks on. So, Mr. Scott, your final
Okay,
thoughts.
that's not so close.
Well,
No,
I mean, I
see. I got to compliment Don. I see. Don is now the goatee and the beard is almost connected now. Here, Don. I see. We've almost got that Van Dyke going. I see the little. So yeah. uh, so Don, I'm sorry I don't have a participation trophy for you, but you know. I guess we'll just acknowledge it, and that'll make you feel better, then. Okay, no sarcasm. Go ahead, Mr. Scott. Your final thoughts for the.
well, I'm just going to follow that cab with Dan. I'm just follow that cab. I mean, these protests, these people have never been to these places. They don't know anything about these places. They need to. They're in school with these high tuitions, with all this, and the parents paying all this money for them to get ahead, and they're worried about something else that they have no control over and have no knowledge of. So it points out how misguided we are in this current situation. Boy, how does this turn around? I guess there's supposed to now be a great debate between Biden says bring it on. He says he wants to debate,
June
and so
24th.
the debate, and so but will he be debating from jail? I don't know how this is going to work. I mean, we're in such new territory now that boy, you just have to keep your eyes on the prize here and see where this thing is headed, with the wars still flaming around in other parts of the world, and talking about getting involved in that again. And it's a very interesting time now. And I really look forward to seeing the debate. I think it would be a very, very top rated program. And I can think about the debate between the 45 and Hillary Clinton, where he walked up behind her and if she had just turned around there and said, "Get your ass back over there. I didn't do that to you. I'm not. do that to, but she didn't say anything. She didn't do anything. So where this country's headed, nobody knows. It will go round in circles.
See, you gonna throw a rap lyric at us here?
No.
Anthony, the thing that kind of irritates me is that RFK Jr. is polling double digits, and they're shutting him out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm gonna vote for RFK Jr. or that he's a candidate, but he deserves to be heard.
He deserves to be heard. He certainly does. Yeah. And that's what the whole thing should be about. But that's where, you get sequestered on these things.
Okay, now do you think if he does what he says he's going to do, and his vice presidential candidate is going to be either ayahuasca or who was the president? I mean, the governor of Minnesota. What was his name?
The Navy SEAL, the wrestler, Navy SEAL guy.
Oh, Jesse Ventura.
Right. It's supposed to be
the body. Jesse the body.
Yeah, it's either supposed to be Jesse the body or ayahuasca is going to be.
Well, Jesse was a good governor.
Well,
He actually was a good governor. I mean, it sounds like it was a gimmick, but he did some good things.
He might be your next vice president, or or at least he might be the next one that he might be the
stranger things have happened. So buckle up for this thing. Stranger things have happened.
Well, see, I'm praying that Biden lives another 5 years, and that's because I don't want to see Carmela as our next president. But that's I just want Biden to live long enough to do 2 terms. That's my thing. So anyway, great discussion tonight, guys.
That's a tough bet. So
hey, come on, guys. I'm striving for 101. Okay, so I don't want him to be 101. I just want him to be 84. Okay, so it's not like I'm that far behind. The longer these guys live, the more it's a goal for me. Keep setting the goalpost back there. Live to be 90. I'm good. I want to see advances in medicine. The only thing I don't want to be is hooked up to a bunch of machines. But I wake up every morning. I want to live. Damn that. So
I will co-sign that remark. I will co-sign that.
So that's my final thoughts, guys. Any day above ground is a good day. So I'm out of here. Hope you guys have a good week, and let's see what happens with some of the different topics. And I'm trying to stay away from who had a speeding ticket and who beat his wife and all that kind of crazy nonsense.
Who covered the Boston game? Who covered?
I don't think it was covered, but Boston ended up winning. I think that I'm not sure what the cover was.
It was way up there, 16.5 or something.
Then they didn't cover, I don't think.
Oh, good.
Okay. Good. But anyway, guys, hey, have a next week.
I don't do that kind of thing. I don't really, I don't really follow that.
I hear you. It was me. I led you astray. If I had never shown you guys, I know. I heard the same thing from my little brother when he was losing this week in craps. But so I'm used to being a bad example. All right, guys. See everybody next week. Have a good week.
All right.
And most of all, make sure you guys stay safe out there. Oh, by the way, what's the temperature there in Minneapolis, Mr. Scott?
Oh, it's nice. It's in the 70s. I was out today planting my greens, my beans, So,
oh, man. Do you do any canning, Mr. Scott?
Not really. I freeze up some things, but I don't really get that deep.
Well, hey, you can freeze dry some grains, and let me. I
Oh
want to
yeah.
see, maybe the soil tastes different up there in Minnesota.
Oh yeah. Freeze
I, I
dried
can,
green.
I can send you my address if you like.
The beans,
Yeah.
I don't really have that much, I mean, so I can,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know.
Hey, well, oh my goodness. So, Mr. Scott, I do want to ask you.
Yeah.
You were part of that